Well, first up, congratulations on the film. I absolutely loved it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Totally did not expect the ending, which we're not going to spoil, but got me.
That's good.
So first up, what was it like going back to the Quickstop?
Jeff?
Yeah, going back to the Quickstop, it feels like home. It's whatever 28 years later since we've been there, and the store is literally frozen in time. That store has not changed. The biggest change in the store is they now sell marijuana paraphernalia, which was new. That was the only change. And for the movie, we had to get rid of that. But I've said before that there's a smell in the store. The smell, everything immediately brings you right back to 28 years ago making that little crappy film.
Yeah, and for me, it was just like, wow, we barely fit 4 crew members, which was all of our crew members for the first film. How are we going to fit like 25 different departments in this tiny little space? But we did, and it was definitely was a time machine, a blast from the past kind of feeling of like, wow, if some doctor stepped out of a TARDIS and said, "You're going to be standing right here saying the exact same thing 28 years later," I thought I would be in some sort of weird Doctor Strange time loop.
Excellent. And how easy was it for you to fall back into the characters?
It's kind of easy. I mean, Kevin would pop me in, especially into some of the other films. So, I played Dante in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie in 2019. We both were in the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back movie, obviously Clerks II and things like that. So we've always never gotten so far out of shape, so to mean, with these kind of characters that we didn't know what to do with them. And what's really great is there's just some sort of weird kind of chemistry, simpatico that me and Jeff have, especially with the dialogue that Kevin writes that just snaps back and forth.
Yeah, same thing for me. It's it obviously it always starts on the page, but just in reading it, because Kevin's words are there and he knows these characters so well that it sort of just jumps off the page for me. And I've said this before. I'm not much of an actor, so working with Brian makes it so easy. Brian and I just have a good chemistry between us. And I've said before that had I not be acting on the side with Brian, Clerks 2 wouldn't have happened and Clerks 3 wouldn't have happened. So it's a very comfortable thing. We've all known each other for so long that it's very comforting, and it's not very hard to get back into character.
Was it weird recreating scenes from the original film?
It was. Who knew that choices that I made back in '93 would be so important that we'd have to have an iPad or a phone brought over to us and be like, all right, when you're behind the counter now, when you have the box of pretzels and the Yoo-hoo, and you're about to talk about the, independent contractors, we need you to put the pretzels down first and put the Yoo-hoo only like 6 inches away from the register. Like we actually took time out at times to get things right, check hair, make sure that we moved a certain way. Things like Jay and Silent Bob when they do the dance routine outside the store. I mean, Jay was laser focused in watching the original dance moves and same thing with Kevin to replicate it when we finally shot that. It was a weird, bizarre thing. You think, oh, it's just a sequel to this and we just do what we want to do. And he was like, no, no, no. We have to make it really put in the effort to match it up. And in the end, after now seeing the film a few times, especially with an audience, I can see the appreciation that the fans have for us doing the exact same thing and getting some of the inside, three-dimensional chess inception kind of jokes.
And it would be weird to sort of, just seeing Brian in his wardrobe. I mean, they actually created a sweater. Somebody custom made a sweater to look like his sweater from 1993. It was a bit surreal and a bit odd. I know, we would shoot the scenes and we would sort of go back, and Kevin and Brian and I would just sort of look at each other and shake our heads like, what is going on here? It was very strange.
And of all the returning characters, because there's a lot in the film, which were your favorites?
Oh, I think explaining the scene behind the Chuli's gum guy, portrayed by Scott Schiaffo, where he's like, "Oh, I ditched that fake lung for tripe, and I saw this cow's stomach as a lung, and that's method." Those type of behind the scene returns of characters, or Donna Jean, who's the customer who doesn't like her route, which movies do I choose, and her having to come back as Lucille Ball and having a take as Lucille Ball. Things like that were really, really funny, which I think, you've seen, if you've been a fan since the first film, you've seen the movie probably a few times, those scenes, but to spice it up with these behind the scenes happenings that had happened is kind of cool and fun.
Jeff?
Oh, yeah, no, it's sort of like Brian said, just the remarkability, if that's a word, of having these people come back after 30 years. I mean, the customers and stuff that you see in the original Clerks were customers that just came into the store. They weren't actors. And to see them come back after 30 years and not only come back, but like to play the characters that they played and to do it with such professionalism. I mean, it was almost like all these characters from 1993 to now had been taking acting classes. They really all came in and did it within, a couple of takes at the most. That was really surreal, and it was just mind blowing. Like, just to have some of these people haven't changed over the years. Some of these people look really different. But to see them all come in with such a professional attitude and just really just lay down their scenes was it was pretty remarkable.
Brilliant. And obviously the story was spurred by Kevin's heart attack. What were those scenes like to film?
It was when Kevin was actually going through his heart attack, we were in touch. So I kind of knew what he was going through at the time. It was a little weird, like in the last two films, Dante was sort of playing the Kevin character. And this time around, it was sort of me playing the Kevin character. So, I had a few questions for him, but for the most part, it was he left me a lot of room to sort of do my own take on it, which was fun to do, but it never did leave my brain that I'm playing Kevin here. I better do this right. So it was interesting.
Yeah, and as far as Dante playing or having a heart attack, my ending was not so quite uplifting. But it's really good to see Kevin take his true life, trials and tribulations, and write what he knows and put it in this script in an incredibly well and, all pun intended, heartwarming way that can, this affects everybody. People know people all the time who've parents, grandparents, friends, whoever, who've had heart attacks. And so I think the fact that he put that in the script and that it's relatable to all the fans out there, and these are, some characters that are beloved for over 28, 30, nearly 30 years, I think is a testament to how much people have invested into these characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm the same age as you guys and Kevin, so it sort of hit me a
You're
little
old
bit.
too.
So I'm not started watching myself yet, but you mentioned earlier about not being an actor, Jeff, but I've got to say, both of you knocked it out of the park. Your monologues are fantastic. How did you prepare for them?
Like I said, I'm not a great actor. I'm not much of an actor. I don't do acting, but I get the script, I learn the words, and then I spit them out. There's my technique. It's out of the bag.
With the characters, that the scenes, especially the scenes with Rosario Dawson, She's an incredibly gifted and talented actor, and very giving to be playing opposite. So it was very easy to get emotional about the fact that she had, she has passed, and that there was a child that could have been born out of that relationship that had also passed. So taking that emotional baggage about that, plus then the emotion that's behind the scene with Randall at the end. I've been opposite this guy 28 years. These relationships have developed. It's not hard, again, to have that kind of emotion behind a relationship, thinking that there's issues there. So I've been very fortunate to be able to play across with two amazing people to work with, and two, I actually really do love these people. I love working with them. I love hanging out with them. So you just try to tie into that.
Excellent. And finally,
I
because we're running out of time,
alone.
what would you say to convince someone to watch the film?
What would I do to convince someone to watch the film? I think it's something of a snapshot of a relationship of many people in that world, in the Viewers universe, and seeing just a regular group of people. We're not superheroes. We're not, first responders. We're not doing any type of life-saving type of jobs, or global affecting type of tackling global issues, but it's a snapshot where I think anybody and everybody can relate to whatever job you're in or whatever relationship it is. Most people have a best friend. Most people have, friends or lovers or wives or husbands, whoever, who you can make these relationships with. And I think it's a funny way to see something go throughout the three movies, and see where these guys have been. That's it's a trilogy. I think that's worth seeing.
Jeff?
I don't know what I would say to convince people to go see the movie. I just, I've always thought of this movie as sort of an ode to the real fans, because there is so many callbacks and so many things that we do from the original. I've never really, I don't know how I would convince somebody who hasn't seen the previous films to come in and see this. But I know it doesn't take any talking into getting people who've been there for the last two films to come in and see. And those, not that I don't want to get new fans, but I want the fans who've been invested all years to come in and really feel satisfied with it.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your time. And congratulations again for the film. It was brilliant.
Thank you, Martin. We appreciate that.
And see you again. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.